Okay, on part 2, we left off where Chris was talking about the do-over and patches, and he said he only slept about 3 hours every night. On into part, we'll just pick up right where we left off. He says, looking back, he realized that God gave him plenty of opportunity to get out, referring to getting out of his relationship with Kessinger. His friend, Jeremy Lindstrom, asked him to go to a Broncos game with him on Saturday, August the 11th, 2018, the evening, and he, Watts, said no. I hope you cannot hear the dog in the background. There's really nothing I can do about it. It is a neighbor's dog, and he likes to stand out by our fence and just bark, 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 trying to get our Belgian Malinois to come outside and meet him at the fence and play with him. But Bo, our dog, is not interested in the least at the moment. He is laying on the sofa, his sofa, he has his own sofa, and trying to go to sleep. So he's completely ignoring the dog outside. So maybe the dog outside will take a hint and leave. So if you can't hear him, I'm so sorry about that. He says he should have gone with Lindstrom and just told Nikki that he couldn't find a babysitter. Being away from Nikki may have caused a light switch to go off in his head. If he would have gone to the Broncos game, it may have put him on a different trajectory. Okay, now here's the thing. Being away from Nicole might have put his light switch in his head, turned on the light switch in his head, whatever. And that's what I mean. I believe he was away from her for that week when he was in North Carolina, and even though he was acting cold and distant, and even though Nicole was just completely blowing his phone up with these pictures and these texts and just all kinds of stuff, everything, you know, she was just completely texting him, blowing up his phone the whole time he was there. You know, and then he got back home. And he was home for like a couple of days with his family before Shanann had to go to Arizona on her business trip. Now here's the thing. I believe Chris was starting to regret ever having this affair with Nicole. I truly do believe he was. Because as soon as he got home from North Carolina, where did he go? He went right back to Nicole's. You cannot tell me that she did not ask him to come over to her house on that Friday, because I fully believe that she did. And even if he just said himself that he was going over there, she damn sure didn't stop him, right? So anyway, the point I'm getting at is this. Chris never had the opportunity to miss his family or what he had. And I've said this a million times before, but I'm going to say it again. He never had the opportunity to miss them for those 5 weeks because he was completely busy doing all these things with Nicole. He stayed at her house the whole time. He was going camping, going to the sand dunes, going to movies, going to car races, car museums, all these things that he completely loves to do. Ironically, Nicole loves to do them too. Although there's no background of Nicole being all interested in cars, car museums, and mechanic. All of a sudden, she tells him she really was very interested in all that. So anyway, those things were her idea. At the same time, I believe on that Saturday night, August the 11th, I believe Chris was distant to Nicole. I truly do. Because if you will listen to her interviews, you will see that she herself says he was not acting right. He was unplugged. It's like he was just different. And, you know, she was even having to make sure he deleted his Facebook account exactly right and not just deactivated. You got to make sure you do this, this, and this to make sure it's completely deleted. At any rate, Chris says if he could be away from Nicole, it might cause this light switch to go off in his head. Well, I believe the light switch was already going off in his head. And I believe that's why he thinks if he had have went to that Broncos game with Jeremy and just told Nicole he could not get a babysitter, then nothing would have happened. Something big happened Saturday, August the 11th. I'm telling you, it did. And it was more than just going to the lazy dog, going back to her apartment, having crazy sex, and him going home. It was something else that happened. He definitely said that she kind of drilled him that night after they got back to her apartment about her wanting to be the one to give him his first son. So I fully believe there was some ultimatums thrown around. I believe she was like, okay, your wife's going to be home Sunday, tomorrow, and then she's going to be home for good. Everything we have put into our relationship, everything, what's it going to matter now? You're still back with your wife. You've not went anywhere, and, now she's home for good, so it's not like you can just come and see me anytime you want to. It's not like we can go out on dates and go out to eat and blah, 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 blah. And I fully believe there was some ultimatums thrown around that night. Even though there's no proof of that, I'm just using my common woman sense here. Take it how you will, but I truly believe that. I am definitely not saying that she told him, well, you're just going to have to do this or this, or you need to just get rid of your family. Now, she said that herself. I mean, she said she never told him, like, wipe your family out, but either way, I'm not saying she done anything like that, but I do believe there was a lot of pressure there, a hell of a lot of pressure. And I believe there was a lot more said, possibly done, I don't know, that night. That night was the kicker. Chris regrets the hell out of that night. So there was a lot about that night. Absolutely. He says he wished now that he and Shanann only went to North Carolina for a week, and Shanann was not gone for the 5 weeks straight. Obviously, had she not been gone for the 5 weeks straight, this whole thing, in his mind, would have never escalated. It couldn't have, because Shanann would have been home, right? He wouldn't have been spending every night and every weekend and every waking moment, for the most part, with her. And so they would have never had that opportunity, you wouldn't think, to think they were already like some serious engaged couple or whatever. But yeah, I do too. I wish that hadn't happened either. When the incident with Celeste and the nut allergy occurred at her parents', which he referred to as Nutgate, he should have stopped everything with Kessinger and concentrated on fixing the relationship with Shanann and his family. Shanann and his parents got into a serious argument over the nut incident, and his nephew told Bella to hide behind the curtain because he didn't think her mom, Shanann, would let her ever come back again. And that is very, very unfortunate, because this little boy, this little child, is always going to remember the last time he saw Bella. And I just think it's very unfortunate that everything had to blow up like that, and the whole nut scenario. And I just think it's very unfortunate that that is his last memory of being with his cousin Bella, is her hiding behind a curtain and him telling her to stay there because her mom's not going to let her come back. That's very sad. Celeste celebrated her birthday in North Carolina a few days after July the 17th, 2018, and his parents did not attend after Shanann had made a post to Facebook about the allergies. Shanann said that the post was not directed at anyone in particular, but Shanann had a method to the madness. Shanann was convinced that Chris's mother tried to kill their daughter by putting nuts in front of Celeste. His mother felt Celeste's allergies were not serious. After the incident with the nut allergy and Celeste, he didn't speak to his parents until August the 6th, 2018. His parents said they weren't sure they could ever forgive Shanann. His parents asked him if he had someone else because they saw him texting someone the entire time he was at their house in North Carolina. So she kept him on text, and she did very much pressure him. She even said herself that she continued to stay on him to go see his family. Go to your parents' house. You need to go see your parents. And so once he got there and he was trying to spend time with his family, what does she do? She's blowing up his phone. Shanann told Chris that he was not allowed to call or talk to his parents. His dad was his hero, and he felt like he lost him because he wasn't able to talk to him for 3 weeks. Okay, let me say something here. I feel certain that Chris did tell Nicole, because it's like he told her everything, and it's like she asked about everything as well. So I feel almost 100% convinced that he did tell her that Shanann had told him he cannot see his family, and he's not going to talk to them anymore, and the kids aren't either, and all of that. I feel certain that he did. And there's a part of me, and I know there's many out there that do. No, there's not. There's not many, okay? There is some out there that do defend Nicole. I mean, they just do. But the thing I'm getting at here is, I've got to say it, and I'm probably going to make some people mad, those people, when I say this, but it is how I feel. And I feel like that since Nicole knew that Shanann had told Chris, you are not allowed to call your parents or talk to them, period. I feel like Nicole bounced up because, I mean, who wouldn't, right? I mean, I'm not putting anything, I'm not really even slagging on Nicole here, okay? But, for example, if someone told you, if your friend told you, my spouse told me that I wasn't allowed to call or talk to my parents, and my kids were not allowed to either, what would you say to them? What would you say? And don't kid yourself. I'm going to tell you what I would say. I would say, bullshit. Seriously, nobody is going to tell me I cannot talk or see my own parents. That is ridiculous. That is not right, especially since you don't see them that much anyway. Yeah, forget that. You need to go see your parents. You need to go see your family. While you're there, while you have the opportunity, you need to do it. Who gives a damn what she says? You need to do it. Now, don't kid yourself. Is that not what you would tell someone? I mean, really? Seriously? If she truly told him to fix his marriage, now just saying, I told someone to go fix their marriage, and I'm not even talking about being the mistress of this person, right? I'm just saying, hypothetically, Chris was my buddy, right? And I knew he was going to North Carolina, and I told him to go fix his marriage. You need to go make things work, and you need to go fix this with your wife, okay? Hypothetically speaking, as a buddy. And then he called me and told me, well, now she's saying I'm not even allowed to see my parents or speak to them. At that point, my whole demeanor would change. I would be like, what? Look, I don't know. Maybe you don't need to fix this or whatever. You know, I'm just saying, I truly believe that she did tell him he needed to continue, he needed to go see his parents, and I'm sure she had some choice words to say about him not being allowed to speak or go see his parents. And I'm not slagging her there, because almost anyone would do the same thing. Seriously. Anyway, it says his father took an entire week off of work when they were in North Carolina, but Shanann booked them for 5 days at the beach instead. With regard to what Watts and Kessinger talked about during their future together, Kessinger told him she would help him find an affordable apartment around Brighton or Fort Lupton. Kessinger did not want him to move in with her. Well, that's not exactly what it was said in the interview. Now, in Chris's interview, they did ask him, did they plan to move in together? And Chris said, no, I never asked her to. I thought it was too soon. So that's really not exactly an appropriate way to say she did not want to move in with her, or she did not want him to move in with her. That's really not, that's kind of different than what was said. He said that he never asked her to, so I'm not sure why it was written like this. Maybe I missed something during the actual confession interview, which I am also doing as well, and stopping and talking about it. So be looking for that playlist as well. I think I already have like 2 parts of that. But yeah, he said he never asked her to. So he said it would have been too soon to move in with Cassinger because they had only dated for about a month. Well, yeah, he did say that. Cassinger's apartment was her shield, or her safe place, and was the reason she never liked people to come over. See, the thing with her is this. It's like she done the same thing after her and Chris. Her ex-boyfriend, Sean King, actually, his last name is King as well, which ironically is also Shanann's last name when she was married to the attorney Leonard King, but I'm sure that is just a coincidence. But anyway, Sean King, Nicole's ex-boyfriend, she said he had quote-unquote commitment issues. Now, people can take that for whatever they want. Some people may take it as he didn't want a serious relationship, or some people can take it as maybe he was married. You know, I mean, you could assume that Chris had quote-unquote commitment issues as well. Well, that's what she said about Sean. However, Chris also said that she told him that Sean was abusive to her, and she was even getting her mail delivered to her dad's house. You know, it was like no one knew where she was. Well, that's sort of the same thing that happened after Chris, right? No one knew where she was. Well, I mean, I knew where she was, or what I had heard where she was. It's not like I was out stalking and looking, because I really didn't care, just to be honest. Really didn't matter to me. I mean, what difference would it make if I knew where she was or not? Like, what difference would that make? I am not law enforcement. I am not anyone special. I'm not anyone at all to her, so I don't care. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's talk, and there's forums, and there's different things, and so yeah. I know for the last couple of years she was in a different state, and she was working with Jim at Sunburst, and that's all I'm going to say about that. She's back in Denver now, as we all know, and she had her name changed. Now, that's no secret. Everyone knows that. So she came back to Denver a few months ago, but she wasn't in Denver. Anyway, why does she pull these disappearing acts? I don't get it. What is the deal with that? It's almost weird. Every time you get out of a relationship, you almost hide and, I don't know, take cover. I mean, from what she said, she deleted her social media and everything after Sean. You know, if you do the homework, the math on that, when she said she deleted it, it was after Sean. So, I mean, I feel like for sure she had an alias. She had to, right? She had to. How else was she searching and looking at Shanann and Chris's Facebook accounts, right? So, obviously she had an alias, or what most refer to as a fake or poser account. So, and she just kind of trolled with it, you know. So, anyway, Cassinger let him come over because her dog liked him and she felt like he belonged there. Well, why would she feel like he belongs there? He doesn't. He has a home and a family. where he belonged, not at her house. Shanann always checked his cell phone, so he communicated with Kessinger on his work phone. Well, see, Kessinger said that they communicated on his personal phone, which we all knew that wasn't true. They didn't actually start using his personal phone until the night of August the 13th. And then it reverted from his work phone to his personal phone. August the 13th, when Shanann was only, and the girls was only quote-unquote missing. They had already reverted to his personal phone. So, he used a secret calculator app on his personal cell phone to store his and Kessinger's pictures. Doesn't say it here, but he did say it in the interview. Nicole is the one that told him about the secret calculator app and told him he should download it to save her pictures in. He deleted his Facebook account on August the 8th, 2018, after Kessinger told him she told her friends about him. He was afraid Nicole's friends would try to look him up on Facebook and would see that his wife was pregnant. Okay, so here's the thing. We know from her records that she absolutely did search Shanann and Chris' Facebook account when he was in North Carolina. We know that. Of course, at the time, maybe Chris didn't know it, but we know it now, and I'm sure Chris knows it now. However, here's the kicker. With her searching their Facebook accounts, there is no possible way in hell that she did not know Shanann was pregnant. Period. No way. Seriously. Shanann had it all over her Facebook. Even the reveal. Even when she told him. She had the "oops, we did it again" shirt on. It was public. Her Facebook page was public. And I'm assuming Chris's Facebook page was public as well. And obviously, Shanann tagged Chris in all of these things, right? She sent him little Facebook posts and, Happy Father's Day, Happy Birthday. She was always sending him little posts and silly things on Facebook. There's no way in hell she did not know Shanann was pregnant. That is completely ridiculous. I cannot even believe she said that. I cannot believe when they I cannot believe when the investigators seen her phone logs and seen that she had been searching for them, why they did not ask her. Look, we know you searched for them. We know you did numerous searches for their Facebook pages and looked at their Facebook pages while they were in North Carolina. So there is no way you did not know this. I mean, that's lying to a police officer. That is falsifying a police report. That is a crime that will get you arrested. Oh my goodness. I will stop right there before I really get on a long rant about that. And with regard to if he and Kessinger ever fought, he says they never fought, but he had to calm Kessinger down a few times. Oh, so she would just fly off the handle. Kessinger got upset when she realized she would always be the other person, and Chris would always put his wife first. And Chris actually said that Nicole's words were, I'm always going to be second fiddle to your wife, aren't I? And, she just flew off the handle about it. Well, yeah, obviously. You shouldn't be playing any damn fiddle or anything, period. You should have backed off, but you didn't. And he didn't. So, yeah, when he's obviously married, his wife and children are gonna come first, like it or not. So if she was flying off the damn handle about him putting his wife first, then you tell me how it is believable that she said that she thought they were in the middle of a separation. I mean, really, that shouldn't even be a question. If you're putting your wife first, and she feels like she's playing second fiddle to his wife, then how could she ever believe they're in a separation? They're in the middle of a separation. They are getting divorced, blah, blah, blah. She didn't. That is my opinion. I do believe maybe Chris told her that they're really not getting along very well, and their marriage is kind of on the rocks, and, and he may have even told her that she went to North Carolina and they were going to do a trial separation or something to that point. I don't know, but it's pretty obvious, and I'm sure it was damn obvious to her. There was no separation. The first incident where Nikki realized he put his wife first was when he left her house on the 4th of July. He told Nikki just because he had to leave did not mean she needed to take a step back. Nikki told him she thought it was better that they did not see each other for the rest of the day on July the 4th. Nikki ended up asking him to come over after she returned from a baseball game, and he went to her house. Well, we saw the text messages of July the 4th, and he had went to the fireworks show that him and Shanann and the girls usually went to every year. Well, obviously, he went that year by himself, and he met up with Nick and Amanda there, and he was talking to them, and I guess she just started texting him out of the blue, because we do see the text, and as I said when we were reading off the text, it was weird because it sounded like he was talking to himself. Well, obviously she deleted all of her texts, so we didn't really see what she was saying. However, this baseball game she went to, well, she actually went, it was noted later on, because she was supposed to meet a guy there, a guy that she had hooked up with through eHarmony. Well, the way I feel happened on this particular 4th of July is when Chris had to leave that morning. I mean, you can't sit there and FaceTime Shanann and the kids at her house, so obviously he had to go to his house, right? So when he had to leave, I think she was pissed, really pissed, because Chris did say this is the first time she got so upset about being put second. So I think when he left that day, she was like, oh, screw it, the hell with it. And so she opens her eHarmony account, and she just picked some random dude that had messaged her, and she's like, hey, I'm going to this game tonight, meet me there, whatever. Well, he didn't show up. He stood her up. He did not come to the game. So I assume after the game she was like, well, let me just see if he'll come on over, because obviously Nikki seems like one of these women that has to have a man with her at all times. She had just gotten out of the relationship with Sean when she met Chris, recently gotten out of it. I believe it was said that she actually got out of the relationship with Sean in May. I'm pretty sure is what it was. And then boom, she was with Chris in June. Very quick. I mean, that's a very quick rebound. So I feel like she must be the type of woman that has to have a man in her life, period. So when the guy stood her up, then she was pissed at him, and so she just fell back on Old Faithful, which was Chris. That's the way I feel. Obviously, I don't know if that's true, but hey, that's how it went. The guy didn't meet her at the game. She left the game, called Chris, had him come over. So just saying. Says he told Nikki just because he had to leave didn't mean she needed to take a step back. Kessinger told him she thought it was better that they didn't see each other for the rest of the day, and she ended up asking him to come over after she returned from a ball game where she was stood up, and he went to her house. Nikki set up a couple of dates on her eHarmony app and the men never showed up. He didn't know Nikki was dating other people until a few weeks later. Well, I don't think she was dating other people when Shanann was in North Carolina, because, she was with him pretty much all the time. However, the week that he was there, I believe she probably was. I believe she probably had a few one-night stands because, like I say, it really appears that she feels like she has to have a man in her life at all times. Of course, that's my opinion, but it sure does appear that way, doesn't it? He didn't know Kessinger was dating other people until a few weeks later. Kessinger thought he was different because he would fix things around her apartment for her, which no one had done for her in the past. Nikki's friend Jim was her friend for a long time and worked in the oil field. Wow, everybody works in the oil field. Everybody. It's like that whole clique. It's just everybody, even people that was pulled in from other states, worked in the oil field. And with regard to the selling of his and Shanann's house, after the first week of August 2018, Shanann sent an email to Ann Meadows about selling their home. Meadows recommended that they get pre-approved for another house before they sold their house. He and Shanann talked about buying a home in Brighton, Colorado, so they could stay in the Adams 12 school district. He and Shanann had a lot of stress during their marriage, which included Shanann's parents living with them for 16 months and not having much alone time. I'm always hesitant to really speak on this, but I'm going to, because that's just who I am, and I'm going to. I find it odd that parents would literally get rid of everything they have and even put their home up for sale to fly across the country and move in with their daughter and son-in-law in their new home and their newlyweds. Or for the most part, they're newlyweds. I don't know. I just find that so odd. I think Chris and Shanann needed more time alone to bond as a family. It seemed like there was always somebody else in the home with them. Or they were living with someone else. Like, they lived with her friend, the nurse, in Colorado for a year while their house was being built, and I still don't understand why that friend was never interviewed or spoken to or any of the above, because that friend is the one that Shanann was a nanny for in North Carolina when she met Chris. So they were very close, and they went to that friend's house on Thanksgiving, just to visit, because they were both living in North Carolina, in her house, in Shanann's house. So they go to North Carolina to visit this friend for Thanksgiving, the one she nannied for, because they had moved to Colorado themselves, and they loved it there. They just loved the atmosphere. They loved everything about it. So they come back, and then Chris goes back, and he lives there for like a month or two until Shanann can get her house sold, and then she goes down to live with them as well. So Chris lived in Colorado before Shanann did. Anyway, when they get their house built, I know her brother, he actually stayed with them for a while as well, and then he went back. I know her parents lived there for 16 months. I know that her friend Christina came and stayed with her, and just these random other people. It just seemed like there was always someone living there with them. Even when this happened, Cassandra, her friend, and her husband Josh, they were planning to come the very next week and live with them as well for a while until they could get some job situations straightened out and get their own place or something like that. I know that they were planning to come and live with them. It's just so weird. Shanann and Chris really needed their own time together with their family. You know, family time, family night, all the family things is so very important. It really is. And the bonding is so important. You can't really have that alone time and bonding time if there's someone else there. You really can't. I mean, you can to an extent, but it's just not the same. It's like you're always entertaining someone else. You know what I mean? You're always having to, I don't know, just kind of limit yourself to what you would normally do if it was just, say, you and your husband. For example, the husband walking around in boxers before bed, right? I mean, no shirt, right? Just boxers and just sitting there, you know. The wife walking around without a bra on. You know, it's just the little things, right, that you really can't do if there's someone else always in your home. Anyway, moving right along, he never thought he and Shanann would have to file for bankruptcy. Most of the bankruptcy dealt with credit card debt for their wedding. They had a lot of doctor bills from the girls always being sick. And there is many posts Shanann made where the girls did, you know, stay sick quite a lot. They were behind on their mortgage payments. Shanann was sending checks for their homeowners association payment to the wrong address for an entire year. Okay, how do you do that? How does that happen? And if it's going to the wrong address, then obviously you would eventually notice it, right? In your checking account, in your statements, you would see that it's never being deducted. So it seems like, you know, that would strike what's going on way before a year. It even seems like the homeowners association would have been definitely contacting them way before a year. So, I mean, I would think probably just a couple of months, you know, that they would have been on the phone with them, sending them letters, something like that. So how do you continue to send a check to a wrong address for an entire year? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. I know it damn sure wouldn't happen around here. They would be calling me before the second month's due. Hey, we didn't get your payment last month, you know. Just saying. He didn't have access to their bank account on their cell phone and never asked Shanann to see their account. You know, I kind of do believe that in a way. I really do. Normally, the one that does the finances pretty much keep up with all that. And here, I pretty much pay most of the bills. He knows when they're due better than I do. But, you know, I'll get online and I'll pay them and this and that. And of course, I have a debit card. He has a debit card. You know the whole story. Every family's the same way, I'm sure, for the most part. He has an app on his phone, and he does keep up with the checking account and the different things that come out and stuff like that. I don't even have the app on my phone. I just really don't. I never worry about it, just to be honest, because I know if there's a problem, he'll just be like, well, you know, don't spend this much or don't spend too much or, you know, watch what you spend this week. I know that. So I don't even worry about it. So to believe that he never asked to see their account, I believe that. I do. Because I don't ever ask, hey, let me see the checking account. I just don't. Even when we get our bank statements in the mail, I don't even think we ever even open them. We just kind of file them and put them in that drawer. Everybody's got that one drawer, right, that you put everything in. I don't even think we open them. We just put them in the drawer, right? So I do believe him when he says he never did ask to see it, because if you don't think there's a problem or you think everything's okay, then why even ask? Or if you believe what your spouse is telling you with your account, then, you know, if you believe your spouse, then, you know, why contradict them? Why come up and say, I don't believe you, let me see it? You know, I don't do that. And I don't think he did either. I'm just being honest. It says, ever since he sold his four-wheeler for less than what he owed on it, Shanann would not let him do anything with their finances. Well, can't really say I blame her. It's never good to take a double loss, and that would be a double loss. You would lose everything that you had already paid on it, as well as whatever you got out of it, you would still have to put money with it to pay it off. So yeah, I can kind of understand her getting pissed about that. I'd be like, damn, at least sell it for what you owe on it, or maybe a little more. Maybe get back a little bit of what you've done paid on it. So yeah, I can see her kind of getting upset about that, yeah. When he worked for Longmont Ford, he would just bring Shanann his paycheck. Well, if she done the finances and she deposited everything in the bank, then I don't see anything wrong with that. With regard to Watts calling the school the morning after the murders, he said he was freaking out about what he had just done. It was stupid to call the school or Ann Meadows. It made sense they were suspicious about him because he probably sounded eccentric on the phone. With regard to why Watts pled guilty, he said, quote, I didn't want anybody else. I didn't want them to go through this for 2 or 4 years. I didn't want my attorneys to lie for me for 2 to 4 years. They would have done anything I told them to do, and I don't see how they can do that. That's what attorneys do, they take their defendant and they say, hey, what happened? Okay, we'll go with that story. Well, here's the thing. You shouldn't ever lie to your attorney, period. You tell your attorney the truth, and the attorney is going to find some law and flip it around and manipulate it, if he needs to make you out to be as innocent as possible. So, Chris, that is their job. If you have never, obviously, you have never had to deal with an attorney before. You have never had an attorney, I guess, and you just didn't realize that they work for you. They do what you ask, just like you do what your boss asks. They work for you, period. A few weeks after his arrest, he told his attorneys the truth about everything that happened. His attorneys asked him if he was ever offered a plea to plead guilty, would he take it? He said he would plead guilty in order to just end it all. His attorneys asked him about 100 times if he was sure he wanted to take a plea deal. Before he walked into the courtroom, his attorneys asked him again if he was sure he wanted to take the plea deal. His attorneys never told him he had to take the plea deal, and they had a lot of creative motions to file and were ready to fight. I would absolutely love to know what kind of motions they had planned to file and how they planned to fight everything. Obviously, they felt pretty confident in being able to fight this case. He told Walsh he didn't want him to fight for something where the story wasn't true because it only would have gotten worse for everyone. He does not regret taking a plea deal, but he never thought he would be in prison for the rest of his life. He didn't want for everyone to have to relive the case every day. He told his parents the night before he pled guilty that he was pleading guilty for a reason. And see, I do not understand that. He says he does not regret taking the plea deal, but he never thought he would be in prison for the rest of his life. Now, I can assure you, it was made very clear to him what his plea was. The judge even made that very clear to him. So what in the back of his head, the back of his mind, or who put something in his head to make him believe that he would not spend the rest of his life in prison, when that was what the plea was. That is what the judge told him. So what was he thinking in the back of his mind? Or who told him something different? Why would he think that if it was made very clear to him that he would spend the rest of his life in prison when making this plea deal? He signed it. It distinctively states it. His parents had received correspondence from people all over the world who told them the Thrive Patch was not FDA approved and can alter someone's mind. Well, actually there is no vitamin or supplement on the market, period, that is FDA approved. None. Zero. FDA does not and will not and has never approved any sort of vitamin or supplement, period. So that is not only Thrive, that is any brand, any name brand, period. His parents still believe he was railroaded and felt pressured to plead guilty. He does not feel he was pressured because his defense team asked him plenty of times. His parents talked to him about using the defense of CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, for being in an emotionally abusive relationship. He could relate to some of the information, but it doesn't make up for what happened. When he talks to his parents on the phone, they believe there is a chance he could get out of prison. On his parents' bad days, they tell him he should fight it. His mother loses it a lot on the phone. His dad always tells his mother not to talk about it with him on the phone because Chris will go back to his cell and think about it all night. And I think that way a lot. And I kind of do the same thing as Ronnie does in a way. When I know my friend or a family member, or I'll just use, I got a really good example. My friend, which is married to my husband's cousin, she's a really good friend of mine. Of course, I've known her for 30 plus years, right? Well, she passed away a couple of weeks ago. Her and him have been together over 30 years. We used to all be tied, play games, Monopoly, cards. I mean, just buddies, He came over and visited my husband, right after it happened, I guess a week afterwards. And you could tell he was depressed, and, I just wanted to cook him supper, right? And my husband sat and talked to him, and they're going to watch some football together, right? Well, I'd done everything in my power not to bring it up, not to talk about it. They talked about football. I asked him random things about his work, but I tried not to bring up that topic, and I didn't. He did. He eventually did himself. So when he opened that door, I just gradually and easily kind of walked through it and talked with him a bit about it. But I also tried to close that door back and change the subject because I felt like it was hurting him to talk about it. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was helping him. But at the same time, I didn't want him to feel awkward, and I didn't want him to feel sad, and depressed, although obviously he is. I was wanting him to kind of get his mind off things a little bit, and I don't know, that's just what I was doing. So yeah, I kind of changed the subject. We started talking about other things, and I seen his spirits lift. He came in here with like this shadow, this dark persona about himself of depression, and I tried to change the subject around, and I saw his spirits literally lift. And so I kind of see where Ronnie's going with that, because I'm sort of the same way. I feel like don't bring up something that is going to hurt someone, because then they're going to have it on their mind, and they're not going to be able to shake it. Now, should Chris have this on his mind? Well, a lot of people believe, yeah, he needs to be thinking about this every day. He needs to replay this in his mind every day. And so, yeah, but this is his dad. So obviously his dad is going to worry about all kinds of things. Is he going to try to commit suicide? Is this going to be too much for him? I'm just saying. It says he plans on telling his parents the truth about what happened when they visit him in April or May. His parents sold his toolbox so they could afford to travel to Wisconsin. And I know that's what that says, because they have to fly when they go visit him where he's at now. In October of 2018, the prosecutors went to Sandy and Frank Rusek and asked them about a possible plea deal instead of the death penalty. His defense team told him there wasn't enough evidence on certain things, and that Chris told the defense team it just needed to end. He felt like his attorneys were fair and were similar to guidance counselors. See, he's comparing his attorneys to a guidance counselor in high school, right? Well, they're very different. And so, but that shows you how much experience he has with law, attorneys, court, and that kind of thing, to compare him to a guidance counselor at school. He felt like he was in charge of his whole decisions regarding his case. Well, now he's saying that he was coerced into taking the plea deal, into his confession, and that is why, or part of the reason as to why, he is filing this 35C. I don't think they can use this interview against him. However, it will be considered, because this was just an interview. He was not read any kind of rights, and he was told from the very beginning that anything he says, they're not going to use against him. Just saying. They did do that when they went to visit him. At the same time, even though they can't use it against him, or I guess consider it, at the same time, it's definitely public knowledge. It's definitely out there, and I'm pretty sure almost everyone in the country, in many countries, know exactly what was said here. His attorneys told him he needed to show more emotion in court, so he did not look like a cold person. His attorneys told him he could look at the crime pictures, but he refused. He prayed for the hazmat workers and anyone else who had to see the aftermath. His attorneys told him if the case went to court, he would have to look at the pictures so he didn't have a reaction when they were shown in court. Chris asked if Sandy and Frank saw the crime scene pictures, and he was told no. He did not want Sandy or Frank to have to see any of the pictures, hear anyone talk about what they saw, or hear anyone bash their daughter's memory. He wanted everyone to know Shanann was a loving wife and always helped everyone else. He remembered Agent Lee, and Coder came into the room after his father left and tried to get the story from him. He wanted to bang his head against a table. He did not want all of us, Coder, Bombover, or myself, Tammy Lee, to have to get on the witness stand and testify about what we saw. He didn't want everyone to have to relive what happened over and over for years. He felt like Shanann's family could start to have some closure with regard to if his decision involved not having the death penalty. When he was in his cell in Weld County Jail, he felt like he should have died. All of the inmates would yell at him at night and would explain to him all of the ways that he could kill himself in his cell by drowning himself in the toilet or hanging himself. He didn't kill himself because he felt like he may have a different purpose. He prayed to God that God would move him away from Colorado. He heard there was a hit on him in Colorado. He felt like he was last week in Colorado DOC before someone would kill him. He felt like God moved him to Wisconsin for a reason. And with regard to if Chris thought about trying to use the defense about Shanann killing the girls at trial, he never thought about Shanann killing the girls until it was mentioned to him during the interrogation. After it was mentioned that Shanann may have killed the girls, he just went with it. He knew his dad was out in the lobby, and his parents would probably believe Shanann was involved because they never liked Shanann. I never thought about that story, and that's what my attorneys were going with. 2 weeks after his arrest, he told his attorneys the truth about what happened, and they were quiet and wrote it down. His attorneys told him they would not judge him and appreciated his honesty. And with regard to Chris's past childhood, he was always someone who tried to coax people down. He was in one fight in his entire life, which was in the 3rd grade, and he and the other kid ripped each other's shirts, and they both left crying. He wasn't popular, but was never bullied in school. He had braces and a Jim Carrey bowl cut haircut. He never talked to many people at school, even though people knew who he was. He never had a girlfriend in high school and always just flew under the radar. He did not really have low self-esteem, but also he did not want to be a part of any clique or group. He had a couple of friends and appreciated his close-knit relationships. His sister was always the popular one and was outgoing. He and his grandmother would sit outside the middle school, and his sister would always be the last one out of the school because she had to talk to everybody in the hallway. He was the opposite of his sister. He did not want to be popular and just wanted to be a regular guy. He cannot recall anything he would have had pent up from childhood. And with regard to if and how his father's addiction affected him, his father became addicted to a white, powdery substance, possibly cocaine, after he left home. His father's addiction did not hurt him as much as he thought it would. When he talked to his father about his addiction, his father immediately changed the subject. His father was coping with the fact that Chris never came back home. His mother initially believed his father was having an affair because he couldn't account for the missing money. Chris has never used drugs and tried to talk to his father about why he was using drugs. He told his father he was throwing his life away. His father lost a lot of weight and his nose bled all of the time. After Chris talked to his father stopped using drugs. He was always closer to his father than his mother. His father always came to every one of his sporting events. His father would come to his games even if Chris wasn't going to play. He has never saw his father cry, and his mother was a loving mother and gave him affection. His mother always wanted to know how he felt. If there was something wrong, he would never have told anyone, and he would deal with it himself. I don't know if growing up that way kept me that way. Deal with things on your own. But then they build up so much that you can't deal with them, and they take a hold of you. You never thought in a way they could take a hold of you. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, and when we come back with part 4, we will be going into with regards to Chris planting evidence. Okay guys, I hope you learned something new from this. I hope you were able to follow my synopsis, my thought processes, my opinions, my everything I throw out there in the mix of reading these things. And maybe you learned something new. Maybe you got a brand new thought to ponder. I hope so. If you did, give us a thumbs up. We would really appreciate it, and it does help the channel. All of your support, your views, your thumbs up, even your thumbs down. It's truly appreciated. Thank you so much. Have a great day, night, evening, wherever you may be. And until next time, this is UnJustified.